All right, so I just wanted to create a short video to address the question for all you new people getting into PCP airgunning, and you might have the question, so which airgun do I buy? And what's the difference between a $300 airgun and, you know, a $2,000 airgun? Do I really need to spend $2,000? So anyway, let me just give you my experience. I am relatively new to the PCP airgunning sport, hobby, however you want to call it. It's about 3 years, 4 years. I've always shot, whether from when I was a kid till now, but I specifically got into PCP airguns because I noticed there was a lot more consistency with PCP. It was easier to shoot. It's comfortable, very, very comfortable to shoot PCP airguns over Springers or even CO2, which just doesn't have the power or the consistency. So I love the idea that, and again, let me just, you know, disclaimer, put out a disclaimer there that I am a long-range shooter, target shooter. I'm not a hunter. And I like to go out as far as I can. I push these guns as far as, you know, 150 yards if I can, 200 even. So what my needs are might be a little different than what your needs are. And I understand there are different type of needs. You have pesting, hunting, target, plinking, whatever it is you do, okay? But so you will buy an air gun that is specific to your needs. If you're plinking in your backyard, well, you don't need a high power air gun with super consistency. At least I don't think you do. Maybe you think you do. Okay, whatever it is. Whatever your needs are, you're gonna wanna match that kind of gun to it. So what I'll do right now is just tell you my experience about PCP airguns, things you should think about, look out for, and hopefully it helps you to figure out if you're new or intermediately new into PCP airguns. And always said, I have this question, I wonder if other people do. Well, here it is. So when I started, it was with a Crosman 2240 CO2 airgun, and it was fun, it was interesting. You know, shooting 20 yards less, whatever, it's wonderful. But then I started going to an airgun range and said, wow, you can shoot out to 100, 110 yards. My guns couldn't do it. So what do I need to make it happen? All right, anyway, for what I did, I turned that Crosman 2240 into a PCP airgun. Now, I have other videos out there that show how I built this. Let me just tell you, in short, a lot of money, a lot of time, and it's not all that. It's nice, it's accurate, it's very, very light compared to any one of these guns I have in front of me. Now you would say, oh, you built it yourself. You probably saved a ton of money. No, I spent so much money on tools and parts and making mistakes and breaking things and trial and error. Be warned, if you're going to take on a modification project such as this one, you're going to need a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of patience, because that's what it takes. Now, I love this gun. I built it. Everything on it is custom. So I'm attached to it. But even I don't like shooting this anymore now that I have my, you know, purchased guns. Now, I love it because I built it. No one's got this gun. I do. Okay? No one has built a bottle holder out of a piece of wood from flooring. Only I did that. Maybe someone else did, but I did it this way. So my point is, this is great. It's fun. If you're a tinkerer, go for it. But please be warned that there's even danger, by the way. You have to be careful. If you don't know what you're doing, do not mess with high pressure air. You could kill yourself. So let me put that disclosure out there and disclaimer. Be careful, or don't take on the project. So anyway, that is how I started. Now, this gun is very similar to the $300 Gauntlet. Basically, Gauntlet, I designed this or modified this, created it, whatever you want to call it, about 2 years ago. Gauntlet only came out about a year ago. So there's no implication here that, you know, they took no. This is a very common, I took it from other people. So many other people had this idea before me. But again, mine is unique to me. Is it a great, I mean, I love the gun. It's very light. It feels awesome. I mean, I mean, this is a really great light gun, but it has a lot of issues. You know, cocking, the power adjuster, the stock is loose, the trigger's horrible, but it's my gun. Okay, and now how do I address that to the Gauntlet? Well, so you go out and you spend $300 on a Gauntlet, Wildfire, I don't know, Storm Rider, Discovery, Max, all these other guns that are out there. And don't expect those $300 guns to perform like $1,500, $2,000 guns. They are different, okay? So the Gauntlet, you'll see Hajimoto, he's a YouTuber out there. He does a lot of work on the Gauntlet, does a lot of great work overall. You know, just when I saw the work he put into a Gauntlet, I would never buy it just because I don't want to do that kind of work. I already did it. I don't want to do it again. So you buy the gun, you spend $300. Can you shoot it right out of the box? Yes, you can. But you start to thirst for more. You want more power, more accuracy. Why does the front casing move? You know, why is the floating barrel not quite floating properly? So you start to come up with all these adjustments. You start to ask for more power. You start to ask for more accuracy. And that's where buying a $300 gun leads you into something more, and you start to add to it. So that is, in my opinion, that is the deal with the $300 guns. Now, there's the mid-range guns. I have 3 of them here. Mid-range, I consider above from 500 to 1,000, 900, somewhere in that range. That's your mid-range. So I have a Kral Puncher Jumbo, I have a Kral Puncher Mega, and I have a Hatsan Galatian. All pretty good guns. Really, really like them. Even great guns, whatever. I mean, it's up to you how you want to define the gun. But here's the bottom line. You spend $600, $700, $800 on a gun, and you pull it out of the box, and yes, you can go shoot with it, fine. But you start to notice things. And if you're like me, and you tinker, or you want accuracy, or you're shooting long distance in uncontrolled conditions, you're gonna have to do some modifications. The Galatian, you know, you want some efficiency. See, when you buy a PCP Airgun, I think most of us, at least, all right, I'll tell you for me, what I'm looking for is a side lever cocking gun, okay, or semi-automatic, which is becoming very popular now. An accurate barrel. I want to get, you know, somewhere around 40 to 60 shots, because you don't want to have to fill these things up. Hopefully you're not using a hand pump. You're using a tank to fill it up, like a SCBA tank, which is a self-contained breathing apparatus tank, which you don't need breathing air for your air gun, so it doesn't matter. But yes, you can use those, and I use 2 of them. So you want efficiency. Anyway, the larger caliber guns only get about 7, 10, 15 shots because they do specific things. They take down big game, and you know, they're only going to shoot a few times. Okay, that's fine. But if you're a target shooter, a plinker, you want 50, 60, that's me, I want 50, 60 shots. So I had to work quite a bit. I had to put a regulator into my Hatsan Galatian. Oh, you ask, what's a regulator? All right, so some PCP Airguns are regulated, some are not. So my Kral Puncher Jumbo is not regulated. What does that mean? The air pressure that comes out of the gun, which comes from the bottle, is not regulated, meaning you'll fill it up to, let's say, 200 bar, which is 2,900 PSI. As you shoot, the pressure starts to drop. As the pressure starts to drop, so does the pressure in the barrel. And there's a shot curve associated with that. In the beginning, the shot curve is low, then it kind of peaks up and then dips down. And there's a bit of reasoning behind that. In the beginning, where your hammer spring is set to a certain level, you're not adjusting it, it's hitting against a valve, but because there's so much pressure behind the valve, not so much air is coming out in the beginning where you have high pressure. But as the pressure behind the poppet or the valve starts to lower, your valve spring hits a little bit harder or has more effect. So you start to peak out. And then as the pressure behind the valve even drops further, you have less pressure, and hitting the valve, the hammer hitting the valve or the spring, sends out more air, but the air is at lower pressure, so it starts to dip off. So anyway, just note that that curve is kind of parabolic in shape, all right? And that's typical of an unregulated gun. What does that mean? That results in shots, especially far out, 100 yards and beyond, your shots start to move. Now, if you're shooting 25, 50 yards, an unregulated gun might be okay. For me, it's still not okay at 50 yards because I really like consistency. So I had to put a regulator in my Galatian. There is no way for me to put a regulator right now. I mean, there is, it's just not a way I like it because it might change the aesthetics of my gun. Putting a regulator, which is a device about yay big, will push the bottle forward, will change the aesthetics, might even change the balance of the gun, so I'm not going to do that. Again, I'm just letting you know that that is an important concept in PCP Airguns about regulators. Now, my caliber gun Cricket comes regulated. Now, this is a $1,500 air gun. How does this differ from a $300 air gun? How does it differ from the mid-range air guns? Quite a bit. I'm sure you've heard the concept, you get what you pay for. I'd like to believe that's always true, but it's not. But in air guns, I think it might be. So $1,500, it's expensive, it is. But you do get a lot. Now this air gun here, this caliber gun Cricket, I have done nothing to it except adjust the trigger. And that was a really, all these can be, a trigger adjustment is the least of an adjustment that you'll ever do. Well, you spend $1,500, you buy the gun, you start shoot, you clean the barrel, you adjust the trigger, and that's really all you have to do, at least at the onset. You do have to know how to work on your air guns. So for all you new guys, you say, well, I buy an air gun and I never have to do anything to it. No, you do. Seals, they will go bad. You will lose pressure. And when that happens, you have to know how to take your gun apart safely, removing all the high pressure air and then taking the gun apart and putting the seals back, understanding to use silicone grease, not any kind of motor oil or any kind of combustible oil, because this is high pressure air. You don't want it to explode on you. Very important. So you'll learn all these things as you go on. But again, the major point here for all the newcomers to PCP or intermediate is, yes, there is a difference between a $300 air gun and a $2,000 air gun. So, and everything in between. It's how much do you want to work on it? What are you going to be doing with it? What's your specific purpose? And what's your specific level of experience? Now, I want to let you know that I had no experience before building these guns. I just watched a bunch of the YouTube videos. I am mechanically inclined. I like working with my hands and I like tinkering. So, and I have a lot of patience. So that's why I took on these projects. And that's why PCP airgunning is fun for me. If you're the type of person that doesn't want to be bothered, you just want to shoot your guns, my suggestion is you're going to buy high-end air guns and you're going to be sending them off to other people to fix. And that's fine. If you can afford it and that's in your budget, go for it. For me, I have to understand how these guns work. I love taking them apart. You know, when something goes wrong, I have to figure out where. And by the way, you'll be surprised. You'll take your $2,000 air gun, you go to the range, it may be the only gun you have, and you go to shoot it and you find out there's no air. A seal leaked, something went wrong. What do? That's another reason you have multiple guns. It's because when you're out in the field and you need the guns to work, you may find that they're not working. Something leaked. What do you do then? Well, you may not be able to change the seal out in the field. You may be able, if you know how to work on your gun and it's relative, you have all the tools with you, you can do it. If you don't, well, you just go to your other gun and start shooting. So that's why you'll also have multiple PCP air guns. Air guns, they're under pressure, things go wrong. Overfilling could cause the seals to go. So again, these are all things I just want to let you know as a new person to PCP air gunning that, yeah, this is a lot of fun and there's a lot out there and it's evolving like mad. I mean, really, in the last 3 or 4 years, I have seen it go from guns that I wouldn't even consider purchasing to, wow, there's a lot of options out there. And Evonex, however you want to say it, I like saying Evonex, potato, whatever. They make some pretty nice guns. At least they're starting to make some really, really nice guns. Carbon fiber tubes. Semi-automatic is a new type, so no more cocking arm. By the way, something that's very, very attractive to me when you're shooting is cocking arm. You want something that's quick to go. Let me just take that down. Okay, versus something with a bolt. I'm not a bolt person. I can't stand these bolts because of the mechanics of them. If you grab them by the long arm here and you pull them back, eventually you're going to break something. you know, there's a lot of friction created when you're pulling. So it would be great if they had like a plunger, sort of like an AR gun, where you grab it and you pull it back. So this way you're pulling the bolt straight back and there's no friction. Well, with this, you have to be very careful about how you pull a bolt back. Even in some of the better guns, they could be an issue. Anyway, that's my particular thing. So let me just, in closing, let me just say that when I look for a PCP air gun, it's got to have a few features. It should have a side lever cocking. It should be regulated. The barrel should be pretty good. Doesn't necessarily have to be a Lothar Walther or a CZ barrel. It could be a crawl barrel as long as it's, or a Galatian that's choked. Choked barrels, yes, they slow down velocity because when they get to the end, they sort of pinch down and that slows it. But it's supposedly a little bit more accurate. I love shrouds. Remember, these are air guns. These are not center fire powder burners. They shouldn't make big bang noises. That's my opinion. I like it really, really quiet. I do this for relaxation. When I'm out at the range and I'm shooting, I like it really, really quiet. I don't want to have to put any ear protection on. So that's why I love it shrouded. Trigger should be decent. Doesn't have to be the best. I'll work on it. That's no problem. You're going to find that even the best, I've worked on every one of these triggers. So you will too, to your liking. But again, just the bottom line is, know why you're buying your air gun. Do it within your range, obviously, of affordability, your budget. But I will say that try to go as high as you can to get the best air gun you can afford, because you'll enjoy it more. So, and let me just close with this. I've spoken to a lot of people in PCP air guns, and we all, including me, we all say the same thing. Boy, I have other guns too. You buy 10, 15 budget guns, hoping that they're going to be great, or they're going to be much acceptable, and they're not. And then you buy a really nice air gun and you go, wow, I should have just went right for this in the start. So my point to you is, go as high as you can, get the best gun you can for you and for your needs, and you'll enjoy the sport much more. You know, I understand they do low-end guns because they're trying to capture the low-end market, or trying to get people into it. But I'm going to tell you, if you love shooting air guns, and you'll know this right away, you'll pick up your first air gun and you say, I have to do this all the time. This is just too much fun. Go and spend more. I'm not endorsed, just so you know. I don't get paid by anybody. I'm a consumer talking to you as a consumer. And I've always found in life moderation, but when it comes to buying things, I spend a little bit more than I can afford, because I know I'm going to be happy with it, and I don't think about what I spent on it. That just all goes out the window, you know? So, you know, in this particular gun here, it was a $600 gun. I added a $150 bottle. I had it modified for $50. So this is about we're talking about $800 gun, and I'm almost happy. It just, this needs a regulator, and I'm happy. And I'm gonna figure it out eventually. But again, this is a labor of love for me. I have my Cricket that I purchased later on, and I'll tell you, I wish I had gone for this at the start. Just go right for it. It was a lot of money, yes, but I don't regret this purchase. I love this gun. It feels great. It works great. It's just fantastic. These mid-range guns, they're okay too, but they need work. And if you're really on a budget, just do some research on YouTube. There's tons and tons of research out there, videos that'll show you, mine, other people, show you how to work on your guns. It's not too bad. If you like tinkering a little bit and you're just a little bit mechanically inclined, shouldn't be too bad. But starting off at the low end is gonna cost you a lot in the end, because if you keep going with the sport and enjoy it, you'll start at the $300 range, you'll go to the $600, then you'll go to the $1,500, and eventually you'll go. So just go right to the top. Although I would recommend spending as much as you possibly can afford on your first or second PCP purchase. There is something to be said about starting off slow, getting used to, or getting sort of getting your toes wet before you jump into spending a lot of money on air guns. But if you know you enjoy the sport, or you've already done it, or you have a burning desire because you really love air guns, I'm definitely going to say go for the more expensive air gun. You will appreciate that purchase. But if you're truly new to it, yeah, I can understand the process of starting off slow, seeing whether you really enjoy it. But sometimes starting off slow and getting frustrated could almost wean you away from the whole PCP airgun experience, because if you have a bad experience, you're probably going to say, it's too expensive. I already spent $300 and then I bought a hand pump and that's another $150 to $250. And you know what? I could just see this getting really expensive and I'm not interested. So if your experience is a good one, or at least a modestly good one, which you will get with a mid-price or higher priced airgun, definitely, yeah, you'll more likely to enjoy the sport and go with it. But again, any discussion about, which airgun I should get, how much should I spend, wouldn't be complete without discussing the accessories that come along with PCP airguns. So you're going to buy, if you buy a $300 airgun, I doubt you're going to buy a compressor, an air tank, a fill hose, fill whip, and all the other accessories that go along with it. You might start out with a Benjamin hand pump or the Hill Mark IV. I think there might be even a newer one. But anyway, one of these two good hand pumps, and say, you know what, $300 on the gun, $150, $200 on a pump. All right, I'm good to go for about $500. Yeah, that is true. You are good to go. If you're just doing some plinking and it's just something, pull out. I live in the country and, there's some pests I have to eliminate or something. Great. All right. Yeah, that's probably okay. But if you do this the way I do it, or the way many people I know do PCP air gunning, they like long range target shooting, hunting, pest, whatever they do, they do it all. And not every air gun can do everything. But you can, and I do it. I do it with my guns. I can target shoot, I can hunt, I can do everything, because the goal of a good air gun is to hit your target. No. So the goal of a flexible and adjustable air gun is that at one moment you may use it for backyard plinking, another moment you'll up the power on the reg or the hammer spring and go further out. You may even go hunting with it. So a good air gun, all right, let's say the FX Crown right now seems to be the crown of air guns, no pun intended, allows a lot of flexibility. I mean, if you want, you could bring the power, and a lot of other guns do that too. I'm just pointing that one out because that's kind of like, I look at that as like the goal right now. But again, you're spending $300, $200 on a pump, $500, you're good to go. But if you're gonna go into it a little further, we have to talk about the accessories. Well, so I can spend $600, $700 on an air gun. Does that mean I have to buy a compressor and a tank, or just a tank and go get it filled at a scuba shop? Well, no, you don't, because you can still fill your $600, $700, $800 air gun, because I did it, with a hand pump, because it's the pressure that they go to. Now, if you buy an Adaman, for instance, Adaman air guns seem to have these really high 4,500 PSI, 300 bar. Now, if there are pumps that can do 300 bar. I don't recommend it, and these pumps can't do it. These pumps, really, they're rated around 200, 250 bar tops. I wouldn't even go that far, because eventually you're going to bust the seals. It gets really hot when you're pumping. You always, even, by the way, even these compressors, like this Young Hang home compressor, I try not to push it that far, because the materials that are in these machines, the O-rings that keep pressure, well, they're only within a certain tolerance. They can only take so much pressure. Eventually they're going to wear out and bust. I don't care which compressor you're using, unless the compressor is using some kind of super Teflon O-ring or really meant for it. Most compressors today are going to have a problem. They're going to, their mechanical things wear out. And that's true of the pumps too, by the way. So you'll have to rebuild your pumps, but that's relatively easy. And there are plenty of videos online to show you how to do that. But so if you spend $700, $800, $900 on a mid-range or even a somewhat high-end air gun, do you need to buy these other expensive accessories? And the answer is no. You can absolutely fill your $900, $1,000 Galatian with a hand pump, because they only go to 200 bar. And they're not that big of a tank. They might be 200, 250, 300 cc, somewhere in that range. So it's doable. My Kral, the one you saw earlier, the Kral Puncher Jumbo that I put the 480 cc tank. Now it goes to 3,600 PSI. but I'm not going to pump it to 250 bar, 3,600 PSI. I'm going to pump it to about 200, 205 bar, because first of all, the gun is unregulated. It doesn't need to go that high. I can stay around the 200 and get plenty of shots. So yes, you can get away. You can buy a nice mid-range air gun, not have to spend money on all the accessories, and just use a hand pump. Now, on the other end, you want to make air gunning a pleasure, like I said, and you said, oh, well, I'm buying a mid-range or even a high-end air gun. Let me go for a compressor and a tank and fill hose. Now, again, in my other videos, I show where you can purchase this Young Hang air tank, you can purchase this Young Hang compressor, which is pretty good. It is a fair quality to good quality compressor at about anywhere from $250 to $450. I've seen it on eBay, AliExpress, and other places. Now they're starting to sell them in America here as well. So yes, you can get an affordable, safe hand compressor. You can purchase an SCBA tank for anywhere between $250, these are used, of course, $250 to $500 for a very good one. I purchased 2 of them in that range, the $300 range, and they're excellent. I've had them inspected, tested. They still have another 10, 11 years of life left in them, and that's according to DOT, the Department of Transportation, because a lot of these SCBA tanks or scuba tanks, they're certified by the Department of Transportation for safety. So yes, you can do that. So for another, let's say another $800, the cost of another mid-range air gun, and a fill whip, another $50, $100, make it $900, you're good to go. You can now, $900 on a decent air gun, $900 on accessories, $1,800, and you're off. You're off to the races. You're enjoying air gunning. Now, $1,800, $500, yes, that's quite a bit of a difference. But as I mentioned earlier, you start off with the $300 air gun. You're really enjoying it. You buy a pump, so you spend somewhere $500, $600, and then you buy your next air gun, and you spend the $300 air gun. You're not picking it up anymore just because, well, you like your $600, $700, $800 air gun. Then you really start to get into it, and you decide, well, maybe I'll purchase an even better gun. And so that's where I say to you, go for the more expensive gun, something that if you're going to like doing this, go a little higher. If you're not sure, all right, start off in that $300 range. But I promise you, if you like it, you will end up spending more money. It's just the way it is. And, with air guns, you almost never stop. I don't know, some people have the discipline to purchase 1, 2, maybe 3 air guns and stick with those, and good for you. Most people go nuts with this sport, have many guns. It's just the way it is. You start to enjoy it, and you start to get curious, and each gun's a little different, and you may have a gun for every situation, one for plinking, one for hunting, one for target shooting. It's just the way it is. All right, so another accessory that's quite important in air gunning and long distance shooting is a scope. You're going to need to have a scope. Most air guns don't come with scopes, and the ones that do come with the scopes, they're not that great. So again, I break it into 3 different ranges: the low, the mid, and the high. And there's even higher, much higher than this. I mean, scopes can range anywhere from, $50 as much as I've seen $3,000 or even higher. But again, we're talking about moderation and reasonability. We're mostly consumers, and you want to probably stick somewhere in the $100 to $400, $500 range for an air scope, a scope on an air gun. So anyway, I have gone through tons and tons of scopes. This is just a few. I actually have probably another 6 or 7 bug busters and other UTGs, and anyway, it goes on and on and on. But here's what I found. So you can go on Amazon, eBay, and purchase a 6 to 24, an 8 to 32. It looks like a great scope. Wow, you go, it's only $56 or $75. Well, there's a reason that it costs that much, because they're pretty damn horrible. They work. You can get away with it. I mean, I've used them for a while, and that's these 3 right here. I mean, they look great. Look, these can take a beating. I bang these around. I tried to break them to see if I can get the reticle to lose 0. And wow, they're pretty tough. They last. But again, the reticle is too big, or the zoom that they're talking about on these cheaper, it's not really 24 and it's not really 32. It's a lot less. The clarity of the glass, I mean, you know, it's acceptable. Again, you can get away with a $50 scope. It'll hold zero, but it's not going to be a precision product, and you'll probably yearn for more. So anyway, that is these. I mean, there's Baleshi here. Some have no name on them. They're from Amazon or eBay. Then you have scopes in the mid-range, like I would call the UTGs. I have the 4 to 16 here. I have the 6 to 24 in another gun, and they're pretty nice. They're around $100 to $200, somewhere in that range. Usually around $150 or so. I also have the Bug Buster, which is a really nice one for short range, 3 to 9. What I'm saying 3 to 9 means that's the magnification, 3 to 9, and then there's an objective in the front. You want the largest, usually the largest objective you can get, probably 50, 56. Again, it depends on the gun, because if the objective, meaning the front lens, is too big, you're going to have to use higher scope rings to bring it up a little higher. Another important item when you're picking a scope is the tube diameter. There is 1 inch, I think it's 25 centimeters, excuse me, yeah, 25 millimeters, or the 30 millimeter, which is a larger tube. And what is good about a larger tube? Well, one, it's stronger, yes, but it lets more light in, so therefore it's a little bit better. So generally, a larger front objective and a larger main tube, 30 millimeter, it should give you a better picture. It will cost a little bit more. Like if you notice, now on the higher end, not high end, I'll say higher end, I did go out and purchase a scope, a Hawk Sidewinder SF30, they call this. This is an 8 to 32 with a 50 objective, 56 objective. And again, this Sidewinder 30 is awesome. The glass clarity is very good. The turrets are very crisp. The clicks are solid, and it's just really a precision product. You pay $500 for it because it is pretty damn good. Again, the glass is clear. When it says 32, it's truly 32. It comes with a wheel on the side so that you can make minor adjustments. When you're target shooting, many people will use their scopes to determine distance, because you can see on the side, on the left side, so it has a really nice side adjustment for focusing with the wheel, and you can read the distance, and so you know how far your target is. Again, okay, it comes in a nice case and all that. They come in a little box or whatever. These things come in like tissue paper. But anyway, it is what it is. So my thing to you again about how much do I spend? Well, obviously, always go the best you can afford, but stay away from the really low range unless it's really not that important to you. These low end, they're all put aside. I mean, I'm probably gonna, I don't know, I may use them to hold a car in place. I really don't know. It's just not worth the $56, $75. Don't do it. UTG, again, leapers, nice scopes. There's a lot of other ones out there in that price range. Just do a search, and generally, if they're in the 100 to 200 price range, they're gonna, read the reviews, ask questions, but stick in that mid-range. If you can go better, it's like a lot of things in life. You buy something really good, and it hurts at first, but then you have it and you enjoy it, and you don't even think about it anymore. You say, thank God I spent again, I went through all these scopes. I've spent hundreds of dollars on cheap scopes, and here, it's same thing like the Airgun. Here I am, mid-range, okay, high-end, I love it, I'm glad I did it. So, bottom line, try to stay away from the really cheap, affordable, I hate to say the word cheap, but, these affordable, I'll call them affordable type of accessories, whether it's, an Airgun. Now, that could also be said of the compressors, but you know what? This compressor is a cheap compressor. It is an affordable compressor. It is not a cheap compressor, meaning it's not cheaply made. And the one place where that rule, I'll break that rule, is in the compressor. I have found so far, I'm using this compressor, and I'm going to do an updated review on my compressor here, but this compressor has been running for about 7-8 months. I run it pretty much once, twice a week on average. No issues so far. I mean, I treat it good, I keep it clean, I don't overwork it. No issues. Again, the pump is the compressor is the one place where affordable product is working out pretty well. Those other compressors out there will go from $1,200, which is not terrible, to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So you have to decide where you want to go with the compressor. But the compressor, these home compressors, Hatson I think made one, and it's even better than what was the Air Venturi. As far as what I'm seeing from reviews. But you'll do your own research, check it out, decide how much you want to spend. If you think it's important to spend a little bit more on the compressor than it is on a scope or the gun itself, well, that's your prerogative. But my thing is, this has been working out pretty good. I don't want to push it. It's just that I'm trying to get this whole sport to be more widely accepted and somewhat affordable. And I understand, you know, everyone's got to make a buck. So, you know, you can't, nothing is free, and, you know, I wouldn't expect that to be the case, but if you can save a few bucks on this part of it, then you can spend somewhere else, whether on the gun or a good piece of glass or whatever it is. But again, no, any discussion on how much I should spend on an air gun wouldn't be complete without talking about the accessories that come with it. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope this really helped.